Date point: 4th year, 10th month, AV. The Abyssal Plain, Pacific Ocean floor, Earth. There was a war raging at the bottom of the ocean, and out of the 4 factions involved, only one even knew that it was happening. It was that kind of war, not a war of explosions and guns and flames. It was in fact precisely to avoid that kind of war that this war was being fought. It was a war for survival. Fortunately, the first faction was stupid. A machine intelligence that had no greater purpose in life than to monitor, by rote, the flow of incoming data and respond accordingly. It was under orders to obey orders, and to be alert for wrong orders which it should not obey. Not surprisingly, the poor confused machine was a trivial foe not to defeat, but to turn into an asset. During a war, in a place called Vietnam, American Special Forces soldiers had once sabotaged the ammunition of their enemy. They had captured it, stolen it away, carefully replaced the propellant with explosives, and returned it to where their foe would find it, whereupon, on being fired, the rounds exploded with such force as to ruin the gun, and may more kill its operator. The machine intelligence was being exploited in a similar fashion. First, it was captured, accepting an authorized user and awaiting that user's commands. The possibility that an authorized user might be a defector was simply not one it was equipped to even consider. Certainly its creators had not. Second, it was stolen away. This took some time, as not even a spaceship capable of flinging itself across intergalactic distances could traverse 5 vertical miles of saltwater with ease. The structural force fields had to be carefully scaled down as it descended, so that they didn't have the same effect in reverse as the apocalyptic pressures they had spent weeks counterbalancing would have. The careful replacement, by far the most delicate part of the operation, in this case took part during that ascent. This part was definitely a wrong command, and had to be entered in exactly the right way, so as to have all the appearance of a correct command. It boiled down to this: do not log the next live capture, do not log the next implantation, do not log this flight, do not log these commands, do not log the return to base. After that came a wait. Everything had to be taken carefully and slowly, with the cloaking systems fully active, and the aerodynamic force field set for a minimum disturbance, both of which limited the vehicle's speed. Then, the search. Night had fallen over the specified target area, which was pleasingly bereft of advanced monitoring systems. Life here was surprisingly primitive. The buildings were mud, and the people who lived in them made their living by and large from working very hard on large areas of mud, coaxing profitable plants from them, and supported by small menageries of useful animals. A far cry from the brightly lit monument to wealthy hubris that was their nation's capital city. In the dark, in the quiet, the ship hunted. It had parameters to watch out for: male, prime of life, physically mature and acceptably fit and healthy, as statistically average in height, weight, and appearance as possible, and, most important of all, currently unobserved. By pure fortune, a suitable candidate did not take long to find. A father of 3 little ones, whose mother was putting him to bed while he tended to a sick goat. Specialized temporal adjustment fields swung into place. Force was caged and collected the specimen, controlled and bound those strong, work-hardened Deathworlder limbs. He fainted as he was drawn inside the craft's belly. This was useful. It made the process of anesthetizing him simpler, which in turn made the process of implanting him possible. By any reasonable definition, the ship murdered him. The appropriate term may have even been butchered. Subtle stasis fields flickered into life to save the body as much trauma as possible, while the unfortunate farmer was scalped, exposing the thick bone composite skull underneath, a protective structure capable of withstanding blows from all but the very heaviest kinetic pulse weaponry. The right power tools, however, removed it so cleanly that when it healed, there would be no evidence it had ever been cut open. The spinal cord and optic nerves, organs that were, to the understanding of human medicine, utterly irreparable once damaged, were severed with a contemptuous flick of an impossibly sharp surgical tool. Cleanly parted blood vessels continued to deliver their precious crimson cargo into the victim's now disembodied brain via forceful filaments that flowed red and glistened through naked air. A man's entire being, his life, his hopes, his loves, his fears and beliefs, everything he had ever known, done or thought about, rested dripping in uncaring claws of invisible force. Physical probes sought, found and pushed into his folds, delivered their cargo and withdrew in a typewriter tap dance that seemed sickeningly fast and violent and yet did no actual damage. The reassembly was equally efficient and smooth. Arteries and veins were united and healed. Nerves were seamlessly lined up and restored with a glue of protein cells that would have revolutionized medicine on Earth had even one sample of them ever found its way into the proper lab. The skull drifted back into place with not even a nanometer's discrepancy from its original seating. Scalp and hair rolled back into place and were glued down with those same miracle cells. In seconds, every wound inflicted by the surgery was healed, as if it had never been. The biodrome was ejected back onto the muddy earth, to lie as if collapsed next to his goat. Unnoticed and invisible, the ship that had so wholly violated him exfiltrated the area and returned to its hiding place, 10 kilometers below the Pacific waves. When the man woke in the morning to the troubled bustle of his family, and the reassurances of a local doctor that there was nothing apparently wrong with him, and that he had probably just been exhausted, he seemed to be himself. He responded to his name appropriately. All of his mannerisms and little quirks of personality were intact. Nothing, apparently, was amiss. Deep inside, however, he would have howled at the demon that had taken his body and kissed his wife, if only there had been enough of him to do so. For its part, the demon regretted having to rape an innocent's very being in such a way, but it had been the only way to return to Earth undetected. Besides, in the name of a greater good, it had done much, much worse over the many tens of thousands of years that it had lived. In the name of preventing his species' extinction, this cruelty was only the very first opening gambit of Six's long game.